North Campus Impact, where we look at our faculty, staff, administrators in our community, and how they're making a difference for the campus and for the community. Today, we are actually doing a second show on our SUBA program. We did this a couple of shows ago, and so we wanted an opportunity to check in and see how they're doing. How's the program doing? Welcome.
Thank you.
So introduce yourselves.
I'm Dr. Minka Davis-Brantley, and I get to teach psychology here at the North Campus at Miami-Dade College.
Hi, I'm Professor Carlo. I teach at the School of Justice.
And so those of the people that haven't seen the SUBA program or haven't heard of it, what's the SUBA program?
Well, the ASUBA program is basically, the word ASUBA is basically the word spelled in abuse spelled in reverse, and the idea is to reverse the effects of abuse. We know that we're all perpetrators and victims of abuse, and so the idea is to create a group where people can work through some of those challenges.
And what kind of ignited this passion for this community in particular?
Well, Professor Carlo, as you heard, she teaches in criminal justice. I teach psychology. They are sister disciplines, and so we came together to solve a problem that we thought was pretty big. She came to me one day and said, we should solve, mass incarceration. And so we went for it. And so now we do this group in several prisons across South Florida with inmates and students from Miami-Dade College.
How many prisons are you currently in?
Currently we are in 3 different facilities, but we are in prison 2 days a week, 4 times a week.
Professor Carlo, how do you do the trainings for the students, kind of getting them prepared to go into the prisons?
Well, first there's an application process. Students apply, and then we vet them through an application process, through an interview. And then once we find our cohort, we have a 2 to 3 hour orientation where we train students on the rules and what is to be expected in the program. We go through different topics like empathy, and just awareness of where they're going to be and why it's a different classroom than a traditional classroom at the college.
Are these students also going to class, is it a class within itself, their time in the prison, or do they do this as an extracurricular activity?
It is a class. It started off as kind of a little experiment, a volunteer process, and then the administration allowed us to make it into an actual 3-credit course. It's 2 phases, so it's 2 3-credit courses, so the students do get elective credit for their participation.
And what have you seen in the students? You've done this for a couple of cohorts now. What are some of the changes you've seen in your students from the beginning when you're going to these trainings and then kind of throughout the process?
Well, we've been going in now for 5 years. Yes. And so we've worked with over 80 students and over 800 incarcerated individuals, so it's a nice sample to evaluate. And I think the impact of the program is identical from day 1 until now. We always have students write a final reflection post on this experience, and it's just heartwarming to see how they've grown from it, how they've gained awareness about incarcerated populations and also how incarceration impacts people. And we've kind of created little foot soldiers to go out and, become part of the solution instead of being, part of the problem.
It really has been a transformative experience for most of our students. From day 1, it's hard to see more transformation, but we do notice that they get to be change makers, to use the terminology, they get to be change makers and activists in the community.
And I think it's important that it's an immediate effect that they see. It's not like they're working towards something where they're going to see the effects of what they're doing later on. They immediately see that as they're working with you all, as they're working with the inmates. When the students come in, what are their pathways or majors? What is it, some of their overall goals in life, and how does that connect to the program?
When we first started this program, we were pulling from pools that were directly connected to our different disciplines. So Professor Carlo would get more of the criminal justice students to apply. I would have more psychology students apply to the program. And as we have evolved, we realized that an opportunity like this should not be exclusive to just those students, and that a lot of students could benefit from having this type of experience and this type of exposure to things that are happening in the world they live in that directly connects with them.
And for you all, as kind of like the advisors or overseers, how has the impact of the students or inmates changed your lives?
Professor Carlo?
I think just each individual that we meet has an impact and makes us realize that the fight is worth it. Incarcerated populations are often forgot about, but about 700,000 people each year get released from prison, And so I think just with each new person that we meet, we realize that we have to continue to fight because they are a forgotten population. Granted, we care about children, we care about healthcare, we care about, you know, poverty, but all of these are systemic issues that lead to incarceration. So we think it's important to continue fighting for this population.
And to add, I just wanted to add, I think, you know, I always joke with her that the deeper we get into this, the more work we have.
Right.
Just because as you get in the trenches and you see some of the problems, you are looking for opportunities to make it better. And I think different challenges rear their heads over time. And so we end up with new opportunities to try to make better experiences here.
And I like the partnership you kind of had and this friendship that kind of has built along the way. Looking at some of these inmates, you also, in the small time, I don't know when you have time to do this, but you also look at the after, when they're no longer in prison. So talk about some of the resources that you help provide as they come out of prison.
Well, we're both part of the South Florida Reentry Task Force, which tries to combat challenges that people face once they're released from prison. The biggest challenge is housing. We can't really do anything about that yet. But we hope to, at least through education, give people an outlet and a home, because Miami-Dade College is very welcoming to our students who leave the institution and want to further their education. So I think through that path we're helpful. We also sometimes our mentors try to be supportive and help individuals who have challenges. We found a couple jobs for a couple people. We're like a two-man little reentry hub with no resources.
But yet plenty of resources, because you've had some people come and go and helping you, as well as the college helping in its way and its purpose to being a center for the community and helping in that aspect. And I think it's great to see kind of an all hands on deck when needed. And sometimes, although there's not a set structure, you kind of have people that you can turn to. And that's an amazing thing to see. And it's amazing to see the friendship that has grown from this, as well as with the student friendship, because you have many students who go through this experience and then afterwards kind of stay in contact with each other. And so thank you so much for being with us today and taking the time. When we come back, we'll talk to a student as well as one of the past inmates. Stay tuned.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
Welcome back. Today we're looking at our SUBA program, and so I actually want to bring up my next two guests. Cleo, tell us about yourself.
All right, so I'm 19 years old. I'm a sophomore here at Miami-Dade College with the pathway of psychology. I'm a Haitian immigrant. I came here when I was 2. I've been here ever since. And
are you the first one to go to college?
In my family, yes.
Awesome. And so what made you want to join this program, the SUBA program?
Well, I always had an interest in finding out the truth behind things. So I was always interested in criminal justice and watching all these crime shows and all the detective shows and stuff like that. So I wanted to know what was behind it. So yeah, we see all these things on TV about inmates, but what really happens behind the closed doors.
And what's your overall goal? I know you're studying psychology, but what's your overall goal in terms of career?
I want to become a behavioral psychologist where I work with both police officers and inmates.
Awesome. And so, Eli, you bring in a different perspective. Introduce yourself.
I'm Eli. I used to be a convict, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I was in the program, a SUBA program, with these lovely ladies that made this their, kind of made this their mission. You know, they didn't really have anything to do with it. So it came to my prison, and at that point in my life, I was trying to find things I could sign up for to kind of help me grow and change a little bit, open my perspective. And so this program came through where I was at. I signed up for it, and you know, it was one of the best decisions I made. It helped change me in a lot of ways. You know, I see things a lot differently now. They kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't have a clear view on before.
And so you go through these different activities. What was kind of one of the highlight activities that during your time there?
I mean, there's a lot of them because it's a real fun process. I was actually in the class twice because the first time I went in as just like a regular inmate, and then the second time around I came in as kind of like I helped facilitate the group. So it was kind of different both times, but it's kind of the same because you go there the first time. And you're real shy because you're around a bunch of other inmates, you know, and it's got the tough guy factor, you know what I mean? So you don't really want to open up and everything. But then as the group progresses, you know, you almost like what happens in that room stays in that room, you know, and you get to know everybody's story, you get to tell your own, you get to learn from other people. And I really just enjoyed that growth process. And then I wanted to come back and be a part of it as to help facilitate, to maybe kind of help other people go through the same thing that I went through and maybe help them you know, just change their perspective as well.
Cleo, when you're going through these sessions and they tell you this program is directly in the prisons, what was your first reaction?
Oh, Mom, I'm going to jail. Like, I was hype. I told everybody, like, I'm going to jail. Like, you know, and everybody was like, okay, why are you so happy? But, you know, I saw it as, okay, now I got this opportunity. I'm going to run with it.
And so in your engagement with your inmates, how did you feel? What were some of the things that you looked forward to as you went on a weekly basis back into the prisons?
Well, the first time, it was actually a surprise because, you know, you see all these prisons on TV and they're like trash, like, you know, but I went in there and it was kind of like a hospital a little bit. It was so sterile and the room was clean and, you know, they had the chairs out and everybody was sitting down waiting. Everybody was on time and everybody looked really forward to be there, so it made me even more happy to be there.
Your interactions with the students and as inmates, how does it feel to have conversations with communities that are not the same? They're totally different communities. You're coming in from the perspective of a student. You're an inmate, but that volunteers to do this. How do you engage with each other during these times?
Well, I didn't find it difficult at all. I felt that we were coming from the same side because, you know, there were a lot of us there that were from the same background, you know, Hispanic, Caribbean, or whatever the case may be. And, you know, we grew up we don't know where they grew up, but, you know, we know from the background information that they have provided us with that we're not as different as we think.
And Eli, what about you?
Well, I would say that, you know, prison in period is just you know, a melting pot. So you already have all different types of people from all different walks of life in there. And so when the students come in, a lot of them down here are all from the same place. Like some of the the place I was at, almost everybody's from South Florida. So we're all from the same communities and everything. And at the end of the day, I think that it's easy because we want to get to know them and learn their story, and they want to get to know us and learn our story. And so as the classes kind of progress, you get more and more open, and it's easier and easier. And you know, I was in groups where people cried and stuff, you know,
Nice.
and just letting everything out. So it's really good, and it's not as, you know, the first couple meetings are kind of standoffish, like you got to break, they do the icebreakers and everything, so to help everything kind of flow. But you know, you just see people want to help each other, you know, and so it makes it a lot easier to progress because, you know, everybody has everybody else's best interest in mind.
What are some of the misconceptions that people have when they deal with inmates or when they go into the prisons?
Well, a lot of people, you know, you watch TV, you see all these shows, how they stereotype, and I'm not saying that all of those are lies or anything like that. You know, there's a lot of bad people in prison, but not all of us are animals. You know, so it's kind of getting used to the fact that, you know, these guys aren't what they make them out to be on Locked Up or whatever show you're watching. You know, they're just regular people that made a mistake. You know, there's people in there for DUIs. You know, that's the only mistake they ever made in their life. You know, so it's literally, there's really bad people in there, but there's also really good people that just messed up.
And as we kind of close out this segment, what after? You're no longer in prison. What's your story now?
My story now is I'm working, I got a good job, I got a car, I got my own place. I've been out like 16, 17 months now, and it's just no looking back, you know, just it was a learning experience. I messed up, but I'm better for it. You know, you could either go in there and you can let it consume you and you could be part of it. You know, the more you keep someone in a cage, the more they act like an animal.
Right.
But you have your own choice in life, basically. And if you decide that you're going to go there and you're going to take advantage of your time and learn and be a better person for it, then you can come out here with the mindset that nothing can stop you, and you're not going to let anything stop you, because you're going to hit roadblocks. It's going to be tough times. I was sleeping on my dad's kitchen floor when I first got out. So, you know, it's just all part of it. But you got to, the hardest part is just to stay the course, believe in yourself, and no matter how many setbacks you face, you just have to overcome and keep going.
And I think that's a great kind of closing to the segment in terms of a message, and the positive message that it has, that no matter where your journey is, you have bumps in the road, but it doesn't matter as long as you keep moving forward and take those bumps in terms of life lessons. And so thank you both for being here today. We'll come back with, in terms of Asuba, where it is now, where it's going. So come back with her.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
As we discuss our inside and out classrooms, kind of where Asuba has grown from its original cohort. So tell us about it.
So the Inside Out Classroom grew out of what we found was this hunger, this desire to expand and grow as people. And so what we would find is we would be on our typical topics of stereotyping and communication skills and role modeling and things like that, and realize that some of the guys that were there wanted more, and they wanted more academic knowledge. And so we started to do our research and found that there were a couple of things that were prohibiting us from actually being able to bring college courses back inside the prison. And so we started the journey of figuring out how to make that happen. And so the Inside Out Classroom was born.
Now, really quick, there are some other in states, prisons do have some curriculum in the classroom. And so how close does your curriculum or your program kind of look at that?
So there are college courses offered nationwide inside prison through different academic institutions. Florida is very limited in the programs that they offer. So our classroom is called an Inside Out Classroom because we're bringing outside students from the college into the prison to take classes with inside students. Inside Out has been around for over 20 years. It exists in over 46 states, but we will be the first Inside Out Classroom in Florida.
Everything starts at Miami-Dade
That's
College.
right, that's right.
And so when you're thinking about this and you're brainstorming, what are some of the themes? I know you mentioned empathy. What are some of the activities that you do as part of this?
Well, we're actually bringing college courses. So the first two courses, luckily, will be taught by us, and I will be teaching an introduction to psychology class. Professor Carl will be teaching a constitutional law class inside prisons. And so they will be taking courses. Our incarcerated students will be taking courses just as our Miami-Dade students. It's just a completely different environment.
And so as you're thinking about this as professors, obviously it's not your normal stuff. There's some challenges. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges with that?
So there's no technology.
Going back in time.
Prison. We're going back in time. Just chairs, little tables, and a chalkboard and some chalk. So for our students, it'll be unique because most of our students are, you know, in this environment where technology is kind of embedded in all of their courses, and this will be going back old school, where it's just traditional lecture, discussion, chalkboard, conversation, paper and pencil, exams and assignments. So it'll be interesting. We can't offer anything to our Miami-Dade College students that we can't offer to our inside students. So it's not like we can have a different learning experience for each and have our Miami-Dade students use technology. It's going to be the same.
But I think when we look at the classrooms, we're so infused with technology sometimes we've forgotten some of that core, the love of notebooks and the love of books and the smell of books, because now everyone's on the iPad, everyone has it on their phone. And so this kind of really takes back to a new type of appreciation. But as professors, how do you plan to teach the course where it's still that engagement without technology, where we always are infusing technology in?
I think that this is an opportunity for us to kind of brush off our old skills. And I think that you have more engagement with students when you end up in a situation where you're not using technology as this third conduit to acquiring information, but instead having to really interact and touch the material is going to be very different than having a computer screen that can be your e-reader for you, or taking your test digitally or something like that. This is going to be, I think we're going to find that there's more connection with the information.
And I think in an age where we're so connected, but through other means, you know, we have these friendships and social media of people that we don't even probably talk to in the supermarket, but we have these in-depth conversations. We're kind of going back to that face-to-face. I want you to look at me. I want you to have this conversation with me, but I think it's in a safe and different environment. What are your classes like? Is it the amount of students that are in there, and how many inmates are going to be participating?
So we're selecting 15 students for each of our course, and it's partnered up with 15 incarcerated populations, so a total of 30 in each classroom. And going back to technology, I can't wait to teach a class where students don't have phones.
Exactly.
They can't Google everything, right?
And there's that interaction piece, because I'm assuming that they can't have their phones with them.
Nope.
So their full attention, it has to be on you.
That's right. Yeah. And also imagine, you know, today if students were to do a group presentation, they can email their different chunks to one another and never even sit in the same room, and just on group presentation day, oh, I know who you are based on your email address. But here it's actually communicating, figuring out what are your strengths, what are my weaknesses, and really collaborating to produce a really good product.
What made you come up with this idea? This idea that probably takes more work than normal time, than your normal classes.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So this was a modified version of what our original intention was. We wanted to bring college courses into prisons strictly for incarcerated populations. Like Dr. Brantley said, there's been some challenges, and we don't have funding right now to cover the cost of tuition for the incarcerated person. And so our students essentially are paying their tuition, which enables us to just change our environment into the classroom inside a prison.
And these students that are participating can be any pathway, any major. It's just that willingness to be able to have your class in a different environment than the normal classroom setting.
And they have to pass the screening process. We have to make sure you're appropriate for this
there's also an emotional journey that you're going through, because these are people that you don't see every day. You kind of are disclosing stuff with everyone in a group, and it's not everyone that you have a class with. Usually you're buddy with someone else. What are you most looking forward to in this journey?
Day one. Actually, you know, I think I could speak for both of us in this sense, but knowing that we've been on this journey for so long, and that on that first day it will come to realization, and that we are able to offer this opportunity to both our inside and our outside students. And also knowing that, you know, we know that education's the great equalizer, and so being able to offer this is something that can really change someone's story.
And I think it's great to see from you all the willingness to take it up the next level, infuse in more work. You can see the passion, and that's what change making is. It's finding something that is wrong with the world and saying, I can't solve all of it, but I'm going to solve this piece, and I'm going to do what I can to solve this piece. And it's obviously changed both of you and your perspective maybe on a lot of things. And so we look forward to bringing you back on another show and kind of talking about the Inside and Out classroom and how it's went after you've done your first cohort. But thank you so much to you and the other guests for being here today. We look forward to seeing you next time on MDC Impact.